Good morning.
Yeah, I want to go back for just a moment to the early morning of December 14th, 2012. On that morning, there was a young man in Newtown, a quiet suburb here in Connecticut, and he was preparing for a mission. This young man, he dressed himself in tactical gear, and he packed 10 30-round magazines. And several of these magazines were taped together in what he had likely learned from first-person shooter games in something called a tape reload, where one 30-round magazine is going north, if you will, and one is going south, so that the time spent reloading could be done simply by flipping the magazine. So you get 60 rounds instead of 30. And the weapon he needed for his mission that day was never in doubt. It was, and I'm quoting, according to the defendants, the uncompromising choice when you demand a rifle as mission adaptable as you are. And it was to be specific, it was the Bushmaster XM-15E2S, which was an AR-15 assault rifle derived from the military. And now Remington may never have known Adam Lanza, but they had been courting him for years. And the courtship between Remington and Adam Lanza is at the heart of this case, especially when it comes to negligent entrustment. So I want to briefly outline how Remington cultivated a direct entrustment relationship with high-risk users like Adam Lanza. Starting in 2006, when Remington began buying up AR-15 companies like Bushmaster. At that point in time, Adam Lanza would have been 14 years old. And they had a plan, a clear plan, we know this from the public, what's publicly available, to expand and control the civilian market for assault rifles. And their approach, and we allege this in our complaint, is to attract buyers by extolling the militaristic and assaultive qualities of their AR-15s.
Well, I'm asking they sort of capitalized on that, but and I know in your brief you indicate that they're...
You know, Remington's words, this is their words, advertising the weapon, forces of opposition bow down. You are single-handedly outnumbered. Those words in a marketing campaign, they don't happen accidentally. We all know that. And so that's how this direct entrustment works. And I want to say one thing about entrustment, because we think of entrustment as face-to-face, right, dealings typically. That's typically how the cases come to the court. But you can't launder negligence through other parties. So the successive entrustments just are the means of delivery. I mean, in a few years, we're going to be getting things by drones. Are they going to, is that a break in the chain of causation? And that's the way things work in today's world, more specifically. They get effectively into bedrooms of those like Adam Lanza. It's that Adam Lanza, we have evidence that Adam Lanza heard the message and was driven to...
What was the purpose of advertising forces of opposition bow down, you are single-handedly outnumbered, if your only arrangement was with the distributor Camfor?
Well, obviously all product manufacturers are trying to capture market share through promotional activities, advertising and otherwise. The purpose is to sell products, is to make people interested in buying your products. And I would point out that the advertisements that counsel has referenced were not necessarily directed to a younger demographic or to civilians generally. Bushmaster in 2010, when this gun was sold to 3 different marketplaces: civilians, law enforcement, and military.
But the civilian marketplace was included, had access to this
in the product
apparently.
In the product catalog in which those slogans, those references appeared, certainly.
But we are...
Would you acknowledge that it will be necessary for you to establish that